All right, guys, have I got a knife to show you? This is the SILVERWING Invictus Blades, and I got to tell you guys, this thing is no joke. I did not really know what to expect from this knife. It looked like some kind of a fantasy style knife. Very good looking knife, the Damascus steel, the VG10, which I was so curious about, the beautiful wood fiber scales and all that. This thing looked like a really, really nice looking knife. And I'm thinking like, all right, it's probably like a fancy style knife, maybe a novelty, not cheap, about 150 bucks. I won't call it a budget knife. I was not expecting too much out of this knife because sometimes when knives look this good, you don't really expect them to perform. Oh man, was I freaking wrong. This is coming to me from Mini Katana. It's made from Invictus Blades, premium knives. I guess this is probably a brand at Mini Katana, one of the vendors of Mini Katana that they offer. But so far, everything Mini Katana has given me has come in really nice display boxes. Nothing too crazy, but just, a nice presentation. I mean, when you buy a knife, especially one as fancy as this, to have this nice presentation in this box is pretty damn cool. So here it says Invictus Blades as well. You got a little latch here to lift it up. And this is pretty much what you're greeted to. You have the beautiful knife cut out. Lanyard rope ready hooked up with a nice skull. I'm big on skulls. The leather sheath right here. And here it says a very kind thank you, established 2023. Thank you for your purchase. Very just, polite and appreciative to their customers, it's cool. I'm just seeing it from just the boxes that they give you. So here's a leather sheath. Now, if I do the sniff test, it definitely smells like leather. It is genuine leather. Pretty nice little designs. It's pretty good. I mean, you got obviously it doesn't have a belt clip, so you would want to carry it. If you want to carry it to your side, you would have to put it into this leather sheath, and it looks good. The stitching is good. The designs are pretty good. So far it looks great. I mean, as far as a look, it's great. When you take this out, now as far as this is the first problem I've seen with this knife, and I don't know if this has to wear in, but it's just entirely too tight. In order to I can't really get this all in there because you can't really close it. So this is entirely too tight. Now I don't know if this is going to wear in time, but I would recommend, because obviously they're looking at these videos and they want to see what they can improve on. I got an email from management, and I had mentioned about the jimping right here is a little aggressive, and they already said, we're going to try to correct that on the next version of it. So they're listening and they're watching. So as far as this goes, I don't know if this is going to wear in time. I am going to try to get back to you. I'll see if I can kind of try to wear this in, but for the most part, out of the box, it's very, very difficult to get in, and I can't close it. So this is pretty much something that I can't use right now. So that's just to be noted, but it is a really nice leather sheath, that they give you with this knife. Guys, if you look at this knife, it's very, I mean, some people will look at it and say it's gaudy. Some people look at it and really love the designs and the eye candy. A lot of eye candy, that's what it is. It's just a lot of eye candy on this knife. Now, you could call this a fantasy knife. I mean, first of all, deployment is fantastic. Butter smooth, really wonderful deployment. This is the deployment of like a really good quality knife. And I have no problem with the detent. I have no problem with accessing it. The lock bar has enough space here. So you have enough, it's catching enough steel on the lock bar here. Stainless steel line is pretty solid. But it's got, I guess it's got some good ball bearings because it's pretty damn smooth. It's got great deployment in and out. And at this point, guys, I already cut with this knife, and it's still deploying perfectly fine. And I didn't really go easy on it. So the scales on this, you have the Damascus steel and you have wood fiber scales. Now, if it wasn't for this piece here, which is, it's actually, let me actually read to you what exactly it says here on their site. It says it's inspired by the majestic wings of a dragon. Its blade is meticulously crafted from stunning 2.75 inches Damascus steel, featuring an intricate patterns that evoke sense of awe. So I can see that. But if it wasn't for these wings here and this section here, and if this is kind of just rounded out, you would never think that this is a fantasy style knife. It's only for this piece right here that makes it look fantasy. Other than that, it looks like just a very adorned piece, with all these wood scales and the designs and all that stuff. But you have a wood fiber here, and then if you turn it over, it has a different type of wood fiber here. Now, what I would recommend is pick one fiber and just do it on both sides. I think it's just trying to do a little too much. It is beautiful. I love this pattern, and I also love this pattern. I would probably like this brown pattern over here on both sides, but I think they're just kind of just doing a little too much. There's too much going on the knife. At least this is the same on each side, but the wood fibers are different on each side. Both really nice, but I guess I would recommend maybe picking one and sticking with it. My personal choice, I like this side with the brown pattern. There's a nice transition between the brown with the gray and Damascus. It looks awesome. Okay, so more of what they say on this knife. It says it's a 3.94 inch handle, complements the blade's allure with its sleek design and impeccable craftsmanship. With its razor sharp edge, absolutely razor sharp edge. I can definitely attest to that. And comfortable grip, definitely a very comfortable grip, except for the jimping right here, which they said they're going to address, but it's not too bad. A little sanding is fine, but they are going to address that. This pocket knife is ready to conquer any task with grace and precision. I'm going to show you what they mean by that. The blade material is Damascus steel. Its handle material is a wood resin. The blade length is 2.75 inches. The blade width is about 0.80 inches. The blade thickness is 0.12 inches. The handle length is 3.94 inches, which is definitely big enough for most hands. I have large hands. You have a little bit more room here if you have extra large hands, so I think it kind of just fit many hands pretty good. And the way it's curved, it really hugs the hand, so it feels like you're secure. And some might say, oh, it's a little slidey because of wood resin, but the way it hugs your hand with wet hands, I don't think it should be a problem. Basically, having this thing slip out of your hands. Your hand really is very, very snug and tight on this handle. And it says that the particular steel is a VG10 steel. It's a 67 layer VG10 steel Damascus, and it's got an HRC of 60. Now, this VG10 steel is no joke, guys. I got to tell you, from the cutting that I was doing, it really did an amazing job, and it still kept its edge. There's no damage from what I was doing with it. It really, really did impress me. What impresses me as far as the details that they're putting into this knife, you really just got to look at the images. Look at the flipper tab right here. Look at the Damascus steel pattern, even on the flipper tab. I mean, if you really look close up at all the designs, the spacers in the back, the designs they imprinted into the spacers, the lanyard rope, that really nice skull, the wood resin on each side, even the wings of the dragon, where they continued the Damascus steel all the way up. The Damascus is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I would say that this is real, genuine Damascus, because when I read up, there is a textile feel when you have genuine Damascus. So I would venture to say this is real Damascus, the 67 layers and the whole 9 yards. It's not a super expensive knife, but it's also in the price where it's not $30-40 where you think it's all acid etched. There is a textile feel, and I know that's supposed to be normal on Damascus blades to have a textile feel, and it definitely looks good. I mean, the patterns match up. It doesn't look like it was acid etched. I mean, it may have been acid etched to maybe have it come out, have it be more prominent, but I have a feeling that it was Damascus steel, because you look at the pattern all the way up and it's all pretty constant. If you're not familiar with VG10, it's actually a cutlery grade stainless steel produced in Japan. It's carbon added stainless steel that developed in Takufu, Japan 6 decades ago. VG10 is one of the most popular and highly regarded Japanese steels for making cutlery. VG10 is similar to S30V, but easier to sharpen and keeps a very fine edge a bit longer. VG10 is one of the most popular steels that are coming out of Japan. Guys, this knife cut and sliced and kept its edge like you would not expect a knife like this to perform. The VG10 really impressed me. There's so much that impressed me of how this thing cut. It really, really performed way above my expectations. I was completely surprised and slightly blown away, I gotta tell you. Now, when you look at their website, you notice that on the website, they have this knife doing things like cutting thick rope, it's cutting wood. So, you know what I said? You know what? If that's what they say it could do, then that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be doing that and pretty much a lot more. But you have to see also, throughout the test, I'm trying to see the comfort of the knife while I'm putting stress on the lock. And it stayed comfortable the whole time, guys, I have to really say. But preliminary cuts on the wood, and just what impressed me the most is the fact that it just right off the bat, right out of the box, it's just giving you these really beautiful curls on the wood. And I gotta tell you, not every knife can do that out of the box. Not every knife has a nice keen cutting edge. And I sped it up over here a little bit, but you can see how it's kind of just, you know, slicing up the wood like a big boy. It's slicing up the wood like a really good quality cutting edge, and it just extremely impressed me. I actually went at it again over here, over and over again. I did cuts on the wood after cutting hard materials, and I'm curling that wood up. You have those curly wood slices that this knife is producing extremely well, and I was just very impressed and very surprised that this knife would perform the way it did. This is a more industrial material. This is very hard ratchet straps, industrial material ratchet straps, very heavy gauge material, and I've had trouble with other knives cutting through this type of material, and it went through it with no problem. I actually did it again. You can see that the weight bearing on this stuff, it's not, you know, it's industrial strength. It's no joke, and it really, with that nice fine slicing edge, it really cut through it well. Now, this is a good slicing knife. You can see how it's going to cut through the polyurethane rope really well. It's a good slicing knife. It's not a banger. It's not a knife that I'm going to be batoning with, or I'm going to be, you know, it's not a really fine point, so you're not going to be penetrating with this. But as far as an everyday good cutting and slicing knife, it does great. It did great. Now, this material is sandblast holes, steel reinforced industrial strength sandblast holes. Now, this will definitely ruin an edge, because when you get through the steel and you cut through all that rubber, it had ruined many edges on me in the past, where you saw chips and bends and things like that. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to test the actual locking mechanism to see if I'm going to put a lot of pressure on it, if it's going to basically loosen up or disengage or start wiggling or damage or anything like that. And that's what the purpose of what I'm doing right now, is to put a lot of stress on that locking mechanism. Here, I'm basically now just cutting it. I'm going right through the rubber, right through the steel enforced inner core, and I gotta tell you guys, it's cutting like a hot knife through butter. I've tested a lot of knives with this. It's a constant thing that I do on all my reviews. Not all knives cut the way this knife is cutting. A good, keen, sharp edge is what you need, but you also need a resilient, good steel that's going to hold its edge. And you're going to see, after I cut through this really tough-ass material, it's actually going to have a good edge retention to keep on cutting after this. This is a close-up. You can see our steel reinforced belts, or threading, or whatever you want to call it inside. It definitely cut through it with no problem. I was extremely impressed. And if you look at the edge, I don't see any chips or anything. You can actually see a filing that just fell to the top of the knife from the steel reinforced belt that was still on the knife, and it really no damage that I can physically see on the blade whatsoever. And you see here basically how it's cutting through the wood. I went back into cutting wood again, and it's cutting through the wood really, really well. So it didn't lose its keen edge. It didn't lose its keen edge. It's still cutting through wood. It's still making up the curls that you would want it to do. Very, very impressed with this VG10 steel. I my first experience with it before, and I guess it was done really well. The steel is great with the edge retention. I mean, you gotta leave it to the Japanese sometimes. They know how to make some good steel. Here I went into cutting the lighter knot. You want to make a fire, you want to cut some fat wood, it's going to do it for you. After doing all that aggressive cutting, it's still got a keen, good slicing edge, as I took it right out of the box. More pressure. 3 copper wire extension cord. Cut right through with no problem. Again, inspecting the edge, and the edge looked fine. So that really impressed me. Paper cutting test after all that cutting. Still paper slicing sharp. I mean, if that doesn't impress you guys, I don't know what is going to impress you, because this is definitely performing a lot better than many knives that I do in exactly the same type of testing. That's why I kind of try to keep a constant line of testing, so you see basically what knives perform and what knives need a little work or don't perform as good as others. No wiggle, no rattle, The deployment is still good. The engaging the knife is still good. It's open and closing with no problem. I don't see any issues whatsoever. And if you look at the blade, there's no scratches from the steel belts. It just handled itself extremely well. You can see the carnage that this knife caused. It's a fancy ass knife, but look at the carnage that it cut. Steel belted tire, the industrial materials, the rope, and still paper slicing sharp after it was done. Very impressed. All right, guys, so aside from just a little bit of discomfort here from the jimping on the top, which obviously can be fixed very easily. The leather sheath, as being, as nice as it is, it's just a little bit too tight for the knife to go in and out. It may wear in time, it may not, but that's probably the only two things that I can really, as far as giving you cons. I mean, you may find a con in it because it may not be your style, but I got to tell you, if you're looking at it as a knife that works, this knife works. This knife cuts. This knife does all the knife things that you would want an EDC to do. It doesn't have a belt clip, so you have to find a way to carry the lanyard rope, but if you're not using the leather sheath, but it'll slip into your pocket, you can pull it out. I think it's pretty damn comfortable. As far as a knife is concerned, it performed like a good quality EDC. The steel performed like good quality steel that you would want in the EDC. Has edge retention, it didn't damage. It's got really great engagement with the knife in terms of the action, the detail. It's great. It's a really good knife. I was very impressed. Good job, Mini Katana, for offering this. I think this is one of two knives that they offer. A great offering. And I mean, I'm just being totally honest. I'm blown away because I saw it perform and I see how comfortable it is to use and carry. I'm just showing you basically what I found, and I'm pretty damn impressed. But guys, before you leave my channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. And before you leave, definitely take a look at this video coming up next. Peace out, everybody. Ciao.